Good morning, welcome back. Welcome. All right, guys, for writing today, you're gonna need your no, we're not in writing, Mr. Dwight, we're in social studies. Get out your social studies notebooks. The last thing we did in there the other day was due process. We did, we talked about due process last week on Thursday. So here we go. You're gonna need to get your social studies notebook out and pop your name in the chat for me really quick as you come in. Please, for your social studies attendance grade. I would greatly appreciate it. If you're just coming in, all we're doing is grabbing our social studies notebooks and writing our name in the chat for attendance. We almost had perfect attendance in reading, so maybe our other friends will pop on. I hope so. I've got 11 names in here. Perfect. Keep typing away if you are just coming in. Type in there. I still have people logging in. We're missing, we have 15 out of 24, so I'm going to give them just a second, okay? I'm sending an email really quick while you guys get in. All right, I have 17 people on, but I'm still missing quite a few. I'll give them 45 more seconds. How about that? Don't know where everybody went, but that's okay. If you have your name in the chat, then I'll just print that off as attendance. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started for social studies today. You can see that under social studies, it says we're going to set up our notebooks. We are going to go over the Bill of Rights, and there are 10. We know that there were 12, 2 got thrown out. So there are 10 Bill of Rights. So what we're going to do today is we're going to set up our notebook, and we're going to do amendments 1 through 5. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about what it means, and then we are going to also draw a picture for each one. So grab your social studies notebooks for me. And then before we head out to lunch, I'm going to model where you can find your social studies weekly and what you have to do there. Okay, guys? So let's see. I need to share my slides with you guys. 1 minute. Nope, these are the wrong ones. It's loading. What was that? Some jams. Okay. All right, so we're going to start here with Amendment 1. I'm going to share out my notebook here. All right, you got your table of contents. Let's add to this. Let's put another bulleted. We're going to take the Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights, Bill of Rights.
Miss Hamby told me Banks's birthday.
Oh,
She picked them up for him.
Oh, they're so pretty. Well, thank you, Miss Button.
I can't believe I interrupted.
Happy Monday to me.
Interrupted all these classes for
You are fine.
Have a good day.
You know, that's what we would do if they were in here. They'd just be watching us. Look what I got. Somebody, one of the little Kinders' birthday. They came to share a cupcake. How nice is that? All right, guys. Okay, here we go. Bill of Rights. You ready? Okay, now let's see. We did our teacher student. That was when we modeled what it was going to look like. Then we had, you guys, I did it twice, but y'all had this on the right, the left. Then you had this where we did rights and responsibilities, right? Then our pictures. Then we did due process, right? Okay. All right, behind here. Whoop. Flip to the next 2 pages. Okay. Since we have so much writing over on this side, let's just go to the right because we're going to kind of incorporate our pictures and our notes today. So what we need to do on this page is we need 10 boxes. We got to make this into 10 equal parts. I feel like I'm teaching math again. 10 equal parts. All right. You ready? Grab a marker, pencil, whatever you want. And we need to make this into 10. So we need 5 over here, 5 over here. So let's start at the top. Let's do a line down. Let's make 2 equal parts. All right. Then, let's see. Half of it's 5, so 1. Let's go up here and make it 1, 2. I'm left-handed, guys, so I'm trying to like move my hand out of the way. 3, 4. If you do this in pencil, you can like see how those are smaller. You can do it a little bit better. 5 and 6. 7 and 8. 9 and 10. You're going to need 10 boxes, so squeeze them in there if you can. There's 10. There's 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights. So we're going to go over the first 10. Today we're going to do 1 through 5. We're going to pause. Then Thursday we're going to finish up with the rest of them. Okay. Sorry, my emails keep popping up. Okay, what we're going to do now is in each box, we're going to kind of jot down what that amendment means, and then we're going to draw a picture. And if you can see on my screen right here that I shared, it has a hand gesture for you. And I'm going to try to like go back and forth and show you the hand gestures. That way, some people find them more useful and helpful on how to remember each different amendment, okay? So let's go to box number 1. We're gonna do the First Amendment, and I'm gonna zoom in as we do them so that you guys can see them better, okay? So I'm in box 1. We're gonna talk about Amendment 1. The First Amendment is one that we hear very often. The first few are very common, and then as they go on, sometimes people forget what they are or what they're, some of them are not used as much today as they were back in history. So for number 1, the First Amendment is the freedom of religion, speech, and the press. Okay, so up here, I want you to say freedom of religion. So that means that in America, you can practice any religion or religious beliefs that you want to. Freedom of speech. We talked about that one last week, okay? You can say what you'd like. Other countries do not have that right. They're not allowed to speak freely and say what they would like to, which is one of the great freedoms of America. Okay, freedom of the press. Let's put in parentheses the news. Okay, the news and the press, they can choose what they share. This goes with journalism, anything in the news, newspaper, TV. Hey, Miss Standard. Good morning.
Morning.
And the last one, we're going to do assembly. Freedom of peaceful assembly, okay? Groups of people, if they want to petition, they can do so. And let's add petition under here as well, only because with our hand gesture, it's separate. Freedom of religion, speech, the press, assembly, and petition. Freedom to petition the government when the people disagree with what the government has said or done. Kind of like a complaint. If you disagree, you have the right to petition the government. Okay?
Miss Ridgway, this may go with what you were going to tell them about the hand signal, but I always think of it as RAPs, like the religion, assembly, petition, press, and then speech.
Oh, I like that.
RAPs.
So it goes like this: religion, assembly.
We put 2 P's, petition, press, and then speech. That's how we do it.
I'm going to kind of use that as my illustration. RAPs. Religion, assembly, press, petition, and speech. Thanks for sharing. I like that.
I think any way you can remember them, any little
I
clever
know.
way.
Because most people understand or know religion and speech, but they may not understand or know the rest of them. Most people just think it's freedom of speech. You can say what you want and you can have whatever religion you want. So with the hand gesture here on the First Amendment page, it's the 5 fingers. So they have, you have the right to assembly, petition, press, religion, and speech. Okay? So there are 5 things incorporated into the First Amendment. Okay? So I want you to draw, like as much as you can, a little picture here. I'm going to draw a hand. To remind myself that there's 5. Freedom of religion, assembly, press, petition, and speech. So draw yourself a little tiny picture of what that means to you. The First Amendment. Okay, and we talked about a little bit in that article, went back and reading this morning about this religion, and we talked about how the people who came to the 13 original colonies, like we talked about in 3rd grade, okay, they came over for a lot of them for religious freedom, because King George III was telling them exactly what they could and could not do. There was a dictatorship, monarchy, okay, so they were saying he makes all the rules. And a lot of people fled for religious freedom because they did not agree with that. So that was why these Bill of Rights were so important, because the people who came over here, they wanted to make sure that they had a lot of personal freedoms. Okay? And you guys are reading that book each morning. We're going to continue reading it tomorrow. It's going to go very deep into that. This morning we talked about who wrote it and why they wrote it. Okay, and that goes back to this First Amendment a lot. They wanted these personal freedoms for themselves. Okay, all right, let's jump over to number 2. The Second Amendment is another one many know. Oh no, I'm out. Let me go here. Let me reopen the slides. Here we go. Let me re-download it. And I'm on slide 17.
While she's doing that, who knows what the Second Amendment is? Who can raise their hand and tell us? Does anybody know?
It's a very popular one. We hear it a lot. Does anybody have their hand up?
I don't see anybody with their hand up.
Madeline,
Oh, there she goes. Good.
what do you think it is?
The right to bear arms.
Yes, ma'am. Good job.
And and what does that mean? Do you know, Madeline, what that means? Can you explain it?
It means
Oh.
that you can own like guns and weapons and stuff, but like as long as you use them correctly.
Oh my goodness, Miss Ridgway, she is smart.
On it. No, that's right, because most people just think, oh, you can own a weapon. But what you said second is perfect, okay? You have to be somebody a citizen who's using it appropriately, okay? You are using it for what it is meant to do, which is protect yourself, okay?
It kind of went back to
Awesome.
when you talk to them about rights and responsibilities. That's like one of their responsibilities, I think.
That's right. If you are a gun owner, you have to be responsible and go through the steps and processes of getting a gun or a weapon, and then you have to be responsible with what you do with it. Awesome job, Madeline. All right, so here it is, the Second Amendment. Sorry, that was sometimes if I open the slide, see that one's the old one from last week. If I have to re-download it, the images go away. All right, the Second Amendment is the right of the people to keep, that means to have, and bear arms, okay? To keep means to own, so you can own a weapon. To bear means to carry, okay? And arms are weapons such as guns. So let's kind of write that in this box. The Second Amendment is the right to bear, or let's do keep and bear arms. Like, let me say it just like it was stated on this slide. Keep and bear arms. And they said that keep means to own. So you can own a weapon. And then bear means you can carry it. Okay?
But like Miss
And-
Ridgway said, you have to have a permit to carry your gun. You have to get that from the
That's
government.
right. That's right. You have to go to your local courthouse. Remember, we talked last week about the taxpayers pay for the courthouses, and you go down to the courthouse and you have to get a permit. Okay, it's not like you can just go to the store and say, I want that. You have to be, and the permit kind of is to make sure that you are somebody who's responsible and you haven't done anything that would make it to where you would be an unsafe gun owner. Okay. And you can see the hand gesture here is you just take your thumb and your finger and this is the right to bear arms, the Second Amendment. Okay, and draw yourself a little picture down here. They've got a picture on the slide there. It looks like a hunter. I don't even know how to draw a weapon, if I'm honest.
Me either.
I'm not even going to try because it's going to look ridiculous. I'm going to come back to that. Maybe I'll
I
just-
was wondering how you were going to do that.
Here we go. As it gets. There we go. I'm sure their pictures are going to be a lot better than mine. They usually are. So the Second Amendment is the right to keep, means to own. You can own a weapon or firearm, and you can bear it, which means to carry it. Now, like Ms. Stander was saying, you have to have a permit. You also have to have a different permit if you want to carry it out of your home or out of your car. If you want to carry it on you, you have to have another permit. Okay, so like I was just saying, it's just something that you must do if you would like to be a gun owner, okay? That's the Second Amendment. All right, guys, let's go to number 3. And we're going to set them back to these all week, and they are also in our reading passages. So we're going to come back. So to review, number 1 is the right to religion, assembly, press, which is the news, petition. You can petition if you feel the government is not doing right for the people, and you have freedom of speech. Okay, the Second Amendment is the right to keep and bear arms, and this is the hand gesture for a gun. Okay, all right, let's move to number 3. We're going to do all the way up to number 5 today. The Third Amendment. Okay, citizens can't be forced to quarter, which means to provide housing for soldiers. Okay, and you think, well, of course not. We don't have soldiers roaming around in the United States looking for a place to stay. But during the American Revolution, okay, colonists they were forced to house and feed the British soldiers. Okay, they would just come knocking on their doors and they would say, we're staying here. And the women would make them meals and wash their clothes and everything, okay? So a lot of people disagreed with this. So they added it. Remember, we talked about how amendment means to mend or change the Constitution. So they decided that this is something that they needed to add in there. All right. So let's under here, citizens can't can't be forced to quarter the soldiers. We have not had a war in a very long time on American soil. Usually the wars that we're fighting were over in other countries. But if we were to have another war on American land or soil, okay, this would be something if that would, this protects us as the Third Amendment. Soldiers couldn't walk up to our door and demand entry into our homes. Okay? And the hand gesture has like a little okay sign. It says the thumb and the index finger represent a quarter. And the 3 standing fingers are the soldiers, okay? They cannot come into your home. Everybody hold that up for me. Shimmy. The third, very good. The Third Amendment says that citizens do not have to quarter the soldiers. And quarter means to provide housing. So for my picture, I'm going to draw a house similar to what they have on the screen. Okay? But I'm going to draw an X over it. Okay? Because that to me represents that they cannot force themselves into my home. They cannot force themselves into my home. Are there any questions about 1, 2, or 3 so far? Raise your hand or type it in the chat if you like. Anything you want me to explain again? All right. All right, then we got 2 more to go, and then we'll review them right there at the end. All right, here we go. Let's go to number 4. The Fourth Amendment, okay? You see this magnifying glass? Great picture for that. The government must have a reason to search or seize. If someone seizes your things, that means they're taking them. A citizen's property. All right? So you've got the fist here because it says, think of the police knocking on your door and coming into your home to search and take your things, okay? The police or the government in general cannot just come into your property, your home or your car, anything that's an extension of your house. They can't just burst in and look around at what they want to look around at or take what they want, okay? They have to have a warrant to come into your home or into your vehicle, okay? So if they ever say, oh yeah, we can come in here, they have to show you the warrant to search or take your property. So for number 4.
And that's like they're knocking on your door
Mm-hmm.
because they have a warrant from the judge.
They must have a reason to search or seize, and we're going to put take. Okay, because when we get to milestones or a test, okay, they may say which amendment gives the government that they have to have a warrant to take your property or seize. That means the same thing, okay? Your property. And like Miss Standard says, the fist is like the police knocking on your door saying, we have a warrant to search your home for evidence, okay? They have to have the warrant. So I'm going to draw for my picture. I'm going to draw the magnifying glass. And I don't know how to draw someone knocking. I'm just gonna say, knock, knock. On someone's door. Okay, they have to have a warrant or a reason to search or to take things that belong to you. For example, if you were someone involved in a criminal case, they could get a warrant to come to your home and look through your things to see if they could find any evidence. Okay, but they have to go to, I'm glad Ms. Standard said that. They have to go to a judge and get the warrant first. And sometimes the judge is going to tell them no. You may not have you don't have grounds to go to search or seize their property. Okay, all right. Any questions on number 4? Amendment number 4, and it's the knocking, like a police officer knocking on your door. All right, guys, last one for today. See this young man, the right to remain silent. Okay, we talked about this when we were talking about due process last week. Okay, and this is another one that most people know of. Okay, the 5th Amendment says that the government cannot take away a person's life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness without a fair trial. Okay, we're the citizens, the people. We cannot be held for a crime without evidence. So that means that somebody can't just accuse you of stealing something. Oh, they stole my pencil or they stole my car. Okay, they got to have evidence. You have to have evidence to support, to prove that someone committed a crime. You can't be tried for the same crime twice. We talked last week about how that's called double jeopardy. Okay, if you were found not guilty, they can't come back and ask you again and put you on trial again, just once. And you have the right to remain silent. Okay, and we know we talked last week about how when you are read your Miranda rights, they're called your Miranda rights, when you are being handcuffed and arrested, they have to read you these rights. And that's what they say is you have the right to remain silent. Okay, so let's go to box number 5. All right, we're going to write kind of 2 different things. We're going to write, they cannot take your life, liberty, or your pursuit of happiness without a fair trial. And we talked about last week in our notes, that is one of the 6 parts of due process. Everybody can have can ask for their case to go to trial. And we talked about how it needs to be fair. There are 12 people selected on your jury, and they get all of the evidence, and they look at it, and they decide if you're guilty or you're innocent. Okay, and we're also going to say you have the right to remain silent. Okay, if you are arrested, like the little boy covering his mouth, that's our sign. That's the, what's the word I'm looking for? That's the hand gesture, I'm sorry. For right to remain silent. I'm gonna draw some lips. They say that when you are being arrested, you have the right to remain silent, because the next sentence is very important. It says, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So you don't want to get arrested and start yelling and screaming at people. You want to stay silent. You want to wait for somebody like a lawyer or someone to speak on your behalf. You don't want to say anything that would incriminate you any farther. Okay, and the hand gesture is covering your mouth. You have the right to remain silent until you go to trial, and then all the evidence will be presented, and then they will decide if you're guilty or not guilty. And I love this. I almost forgot to say this. Right here up at the top, this guy, this little speech bubble, if you've ever heard someone say, I'm pleading the fifth, that means that they're not going to speak. If someone asks you a question and you say, I plead the fifth, that means that you care not to answer the question. You do not want to answer the question. Okay, or you could draw this right here, the little guy behind bars. Okay, if there's no evidence to support the case, you cannot be tried. Are there any questions on number 5? All right, so really quick before we log off, I think some people I'll leave number 5 up for just a second. And then we're going to do the hand gestures for 1 through 5 together. And then I'm going to see really quick if I can find a video of the Miranda rights. All right, I think I found one. All right, give me a thumbs up if you copied 1 through 5 already and you are good to go. Yes. Oh, I like Kasaya used the little thumbs up tool. I forgot about that. If you didn't, I'll leave these up on Thursday for a few minutes, especially since we have some absent people. That way they can copy these down. All right, if you're done, you can put your notebook away. All right, let's do our hand gestures. All right, so we learned 5 amendments today. We learned 1 through 5. All right, hold up one finger. The First Amendment is has 5 different components. Okay, you have the right, the freedom of religion, assembly, means you can come together in a group of people. Press, that's the news. The press can say what they like. They can share what information they want to share. Petition, okay, which is petition reminds me of people like Martin Luther King, who stood up for what they believed in, and they came together and they marched peacefully, peaceful protest. And speech, very important. Okay, there's 5 components to the First Amendment. You have the right to say what you want. Freedom of speech. Okay, hold up 2 fingers. The Second Amendment. Who remembers? What's the Second Amendment?
To bear arms.
Bear arms. Second Amendment. Bear arms. Turn it into a weapon. Second Amendment says that I have the right to keep a firearm. I can own one, okay? And I can carry it if I have a permit, okay? It's not like you go to a store and you decide, I want a gun today, okay? There are laws and rules to make sure that people who have the right to bear arms are using it appropriately. Okay, and where you can have a gun, I did want to mention this, where you can have a weapon or keep it is your home or your car. A car is an extension of your house. Okay, you can leave them in there, in your home or your car. And then if you want to carry it, to bear it, as they said in the phrase, if you want to bear a weapon on your body, you have to get a separate permit to be able to do that. You can't just walk in Walmart with your weapon, okay? You have to have a permit to do that. All right, hold up 3 fingers. The Third Amendment. Citizens cannot be forced to quarter soldiers. So make your quarter and your 3 fingers. Here's your soldiers, okay? They can't come in your house. They cannot come in your home. We saw this a lot in the American Revolution. The soldiers would just come in and pretty much take over people's houses. They would hurt them. If they refused, they would kill them, okay? The British soldiers were not very nice to them, and they would come in and force them. They'd take their clothing, their food, their shelter, everything, okay? They cannot no longer do that. That's why they added it to the Constitution, okay? Third one, soldiers cannot force themselves into your home. All right, Fourth Amendment. Fourth Amendment. Knock, knock, knock. Think of someone knocking on your door. That you must have a reason or a warrant to search or seize your property. They cannot just walk into your house. A lot of the times, if you get pulled over, they might ask you, "Can I look around in your car?" Okay? They cannot ask you that unless they have a warrant for your vehicle. Okay? If they think something is in there, like evidence for a crime, they can get a warrant, but they can't just say, "Hey, I'm going to look around your vehicle." No. They cannot do that. They have to have a warrant to look at anything that belongs to you or to your family, okay? And number five, they cannot take away your life, your liberty, or your pursuit of happiness, okay? That means that you have the right to a fair trial. If you ever commit a crime, you are innocent until you are proven guilty. That means that you're innocent until someone says you are guilty of the crime. The judge and the jury come together and decide that you are guilty. You also have the right to remain silent. Okay? If you are being arrested, you do not have to answer any questions at all. If they ask you anything, you can say, "I plead the fifth. Sorry, I'm not going to answer you. I need a lawyer." All right? So that is the Fifth Amendment, is the right to remain silent. Anything you can, or anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. All right, last thing we're going to do. I think I found a video that explains the Miranda rights. There was a case called Miranda versus Arizona. Okay. And it's going to explain to you, I'm going to unpin my video because I'm very large on the screen there. Okay, that's better. Okay, and it's going to explain to you what the Miranda, why they're read to you, and what happens if the police officer forgets to read you your rights. Okay, because there are consequences if he chooses to forget to do that. Okay.
In the 1960s, Miranda versus Arizona was a huge victory for individual rights. The case established a set of arrest procedures, including the famous right to remain silent that Americans now take for granted. Miranda was a consolidation of 4 cases. Ernesto Miranda confessed after questioning by Arizona police while he was in custody at a police station. Before confessing, Miranda wasn't advised of his right to counsel. At trial, his confession was admitted, and a jury convicted him of kidnapping and rape. The Supreme Court of Arizona affirmed Miranda's conviction. Like Miranda, defendants Michael Viñera and Carl Westover confessed to crimes after extensive custodial interrogations without being notified of their rights. Their convictions were affirmed. However, the Supreme Court of California reversed Roy Allen Stewart's conviction because the record was silent on whether he had been advised of his rights. The United States Supreme Court accepted these 4 cases to determine what kinds of custodial interrogation procedures were required to adequately safeguard the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. The court held that without certain hallmark warnings regarding the right to remain silent and the right to counsel, Statements made during custodial interrogation were inadmissible at trial. Writing for a 5-justice majority, Chief Justice
All right, so I'm gonna go back to this really quick, okay? So this means that if a police officer arrests you and he does not read you your Miranda rights, okay? It's called this big word, it's inadmissible at trial. They can't take you to trial. If the police officer forgets to read you your rights, whether they saw you do it or not, you cannot be tried for that crime. They have to read you your rights. And when we talked last week about due process, I'm trying to find it in my notebook, okay? When we wrote this down last week in due process, that was it. It says you have to be told your charges, They have to tell you why they're arresting you, and you have the right to a fair jury and a fair trial, okay? Because that means that you have to be present at your trial and that you have to be given the opportunity to receive all of the evidence. So if they don't read you your rights, then they're already breaking the first part of due process. So that's what happened to all these people. Nobody read them their rights, and then they went to trial and they were still found guilty, and they said, well, that's not fair. That's not a fair trial. They did not go through due process, okay? I'm gonna scoot up to here. All right, here we go.
officers question a person who has been arrested and taken into custody or otherwise deprived of freedom of action in any significant way. Warren described custodial interrogation as inherently coercive. Cutting suspects off from contact with the outside world creates an environment ripe for intimidation. Acting within a closed, hostile environment, police officers can prey upon individual weaknesses at the expense of individual liberties. The risk of psychological intimidation was plain in several of the consolidated cases here. For example, Miranda suffered from mental illness, and Stewart had dropped out of school in the 6th grade. Due to these concerns, the Constitution requires a number of procedural safeguards that relieve some of the pressure put upon people in custodial interrogation. Prior to any questioning while in custody, a person must be informed of the right to remain silent and that anything said can be used as evidence of guilt. The arrestee must also be notified of the right to an attorney, and that if the arrestee can't pay for an attorney, one will be provided for free. Any waiver of these rights must be voluntary. If a person refuses to be questioned at any point, law enforcement can't continue the questioning. The fact that a person answers some questions doesn't mean the person waives the right to consult with an attorney or to stop the interrogation at a later point. After establishing these principles, the court held that the statements of all 4 men were inadmissible. The court reversed the convictions of Miranda, Viñera, and Westover, and then affirmed the California Supreme Court's reversal of Stewart's conviction.
All right, we're gonna pause there because they're using a lot of big vocabulary, okay? So they reversed it, okay? They said they're guilty. Well, then they had to go back and say, well, these police officers didn't read them their rights. And then they put them in a room and they demanded that they confess to whatever the crime was. Well, they really didn't commit them. They were still found guilty, okay? If the police officer reads you your rights and then you say, or he says you have the right to remain silent and you say you plead the 5th, they can't ask you any other questions until your lawyer arrives, okay? And if you're somebody who can't pay for a lawyer, then the state has to offer a lawyer to you, or you can defend yourself, okay? So that is number 5, right to remain silent, okay? Are there any questions about 1 through 5? No, Shiloh says no. All right, so on Thursday, we're going to do 6 through 10, and then we're also going to continue talking about them and reading this week in our passage, okay? All right, guys, it is not 1:30. I wish. What? It's 10:30, which means you have a brain break. Then you have some independent time. Let's go see really quick before we log off. Let's go see who has turned in their discussion post. Because a few minutes ago, it was only 6 people. Oh, all right, we have 28, but could be from Ms. Hamby's class. All right, so Jade, Angel, Christian, Jakari, Lance, Jaden, Salage, Miko. I'm scrolling down. Some of these are in other classes. Da, 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 da. All right, I think these are all from Ms. Hamby's class. You can go read theirs if you want and comment on them. All right, so if I just called your name out, that means that you already got it done and you can go start your lunch early. If I did not call your name, I need you to head over to the discussion post, finish typing it up, click post, and then you can head out to lunch. And what's our special today? What is our special? Hold on. Lab. We don't have lab. So at 12:30, you can go ahead and work on something, or you can go to Keyboarding Without Tears. We've got coding.com on there. Just work on anything you need. I would use it to get ahead so I can be done for Fun Friday, but that's just me. All right, guys. And Miss Sanders will see y'all at 1. That lovely math stuff y'all do. All right, guys. If you do not have a question for me, go work on your discussion post, and I will see you in the morning, okay? Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.